So we just found this crazy PS2 for cheap at a garage sale. We're going to see if we can make something out of it. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and I got with me
Danny.
And we're going to take a look at this PS2 that we picked up at a garage sale. And you can see it's got stickers all over it. It looks like, to me, it was bought at some point from a Goodwill, because that's how Goodwill stickers their stuff. And then they didn't even, I don't even think the person that I bought this from said that they even tested it out. They just had it sitting somewhere for a long time. So I don't know if it works. I'm guessing it doesn't. I don't even care. I'm not going to plug it in because I'm going to make something different out of it. So the first thing we have to do is we're going to have to open this thing up, and we're going to gut it completely out because we're going to be putting our own parts in it. That sounds pretty cool, Danny?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Get it out.
Let's gut this thing out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off all these screw covers and take the 8 screws out of the back, out of the bottom. If you ever buy a piece of electronics and you want to know how to open it, always look for the rubber feet. They always hide screws underneath the rubber feet. That one's stubborn. Sounds crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, got all the screw covers off. Now it's time to take all the screws out. I'll get these 2 and then you can do the other 2, Danny.
All right.
Snap. There we go. Just push it down in there strong.
These ones?
Yep. All right. And on this particular model, looks like someone's already been inside because the tamper sticker that usually sits on there is completely taken off. So we got the screws out. Now we should be able to lift the top off. And this is actually pretty clean inside. All right, let's take the power connector off. And we're going to need that, so we're going to set this aside. We'll be able to unplug it from the motherboard once we get up inside there. Now we're going to take off the controller ports. And none of these ribbon cables I'm concerned with working, but we'll take them off the right way. We won't ever have to replace them though. We're gonna have to clean this up for sure though. Look at that.
Ew.
Yuck. All right, I just popped the power buttons off the top cover here so we can put that to the side. Now we should be able to pop the expansion bay cover off. I think we can take the bottom cover off now. Yep, there we go. Ooh, yummy.
Oh, I think there's a dead bug in there.
Yeah, a dead bug. Looks like they may have been a smoker. Oh, more bugs.
Ew!
Yummy.
Like infested bugs. PS2 transfer.
Alright, so this is really all I need here. It's going to be the shell. But we're going to have to take a couple more parts off so that we can get some of the back plates. And of course we got the front plates we're going to clean up. So let's get some more pieces off of it. Alright, so this is all the parts here that we're not going to need, including all the bugs. So I've got a couple parts here that I've taken off to complete the shell, including the back plate here. The fan we're not going to hook up to anything, but I did disconnect it just in case. So we're going to get all these parts cleaned up and decide at some point if we need to repaint it or if we're just going to keep it the same color. And the rest of the parts that we're going to need for the inside should be coming in the mail today.
Woohoo!
Alright, we cleaned up some of the parts here and they turned out alright. I don't think we're going to need to paint. There is a couple battle scars on them, but nothing too horrible. But one thing that we do need to do is where the drive tray comes out, the front face of it, we need to fix back in there somehow. So I've used a Dremel to cut off the drive tray. This just snaps on. We're going to super glue that down, and then we just need some way to build up inside here to get that to sit, and it's not going to go in and out or anymore. We just need it to mount it in there somehow. So I rummaged through some spare parts. It's always good to have some scrap stuff around the house, and I found this is about the best thing, just a old drive that I'm not going to ever use again. That's almost the right size, so we're going to glue that down there, and then just enough to shim it up a little bit. Inside one of the boxes that we got parts wise was some cardboard, so with that folded over here, almost looks like it was made to be right there. That's completely coincidental, but once we glue this down and put it there, it's going to be just the right height to sit in there, and then we'll just tack it down with some glue or hot glue or super glue or something, and that'll take care of that. And other than that, we've got this cage here that was part of the insides. We're actually going to need this to sit in here and help us mount some of the things that sit on the back, and also the memory card holders. So we'll mount that back down in there. It won't take up any room. It'll actually help us mount some of the parts on the inside that we need. So last steps are going to be a little bit of gluing and assemble everything back together. Alright, so let us catch you up with some of the things we did off camera. So first things first, we took the power inlet here, which had a switch, and we soldered that to this electrical cord, which you'll see what that goes to in just a second. So that's going to sit in here. And then we took on the bottom plate here, we stuck down a bunch of RGB LEDs to the bottom. So obviously this thing is going to glow on the inside once we're all done. And then the other thing that we changed up, instead of using the cardboard as a spacer, I used some carpet tape, like extra heavy duty Velcro underneath here, underneath the hard drive, and that got it just the right height. So glued the plate down to the hard drive, stuck the hard drive down to the inside, and that should hold it nice and tight. Alright, so we're going to assemble this thing all up together, and let's show you what we're going to be putting in here. So along with the metal cage that we have to mount back in there, we're going to have this guy. So that's what the electrical cord is going to go to, and it's just simply a 6-port USB charger. You've seen these before, Dan?
Yep.
You use one for all your electronic devices.
Yeah.
All your plethora of devices. So this is a 12 amp max. So we'll have 2 amps on each port. We're not going to need that at all, because all we're going to be plugging into it is a bunch of USB charging cables. So basically this whole thing is going to be, if you haven't figured out from the description yet, a charger for controllers. So on the other end of these USBs, we're going to have 2 USB minis, 2 USB micros, and 2 USB-Cs. So that's going to cover the PS3, PS4, and PS5, and basically anything that you wanted to charge besides an iPhone. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do before we mount this inside the PlayStation is we're going to just tie wrap this charger down in place just so it doesn't wiggle around. It's kind of got some bumps on the metal, so that same Velcro wouldn't have worked as well. But we're just going to cinch it down. And that should be good enough. Okay, got this guy down. We're going to plug in our cables. I thought about adding the LED lights, the RGB lights, after we bought the 6-port charger. So I've actually got a splitter plugged in as one of them. So we'll plug the lights in and then one of the charging cables into that. So these 6 guys are going to go into here, and then we'll start mounting stuff together, and we'll probably have some fun with that, getting all the cables coiled up nice and neat so that they all fit inside. Alright, so we did some cable management. Just used some more tie wraps to tie these down. We've got this one sitting over here that will be ready for the lights. And these guys are tucked underneath. They're going to come out the back. And where that's coming out underneath is basically going to be where this expansion plate is. We were thinking at first to notch it out, but I think we're just going to leave the back door off, let the cables come out, and if we ever wanted to tuck them back in, we could coil them up, shove them in, and close this down. So let's get everything back together again. Alright, so the tray's back in. It just kind of sits in place. I plugged in the lights into here. We're just going to kind of tuck that in once we close the lid down. So we've got what used to be the fan shroud here, and then the power port. So we're going to screw that back down. And the screw that was on this side was mounting through part of the CD mechanism, I think, and it's not there anymore. So I think we're going to be alright once this closes down on it. And then we've got the memory card and controller ports. We're going to mount down here on this side. I'll get this side and then you can get the other side, Danny.
Okay.
You go into that hole right there. And it's a metal screw going into a plastic hole, so you never tighten it down super tight, but just enough to keep it snug. So now we got to plug in the AC cord also into the back of the charger. And that's all just going to kind of shove back in there once the case goes on. Okay, the last thing to do should be to put the top back on, flip it over and screw it down.
Is that supposed to be out?
There we go. Had one thing that was sticking out in the back here Danny caught for us. So this all should be squeezed together. Flip it over and screw it down. So if you were smart, you would take a picture of where all the screws came from. But I remembered that the long screws come from the fatter side, and then the shorter screws come from the shorter side. So let's start throwing a couple of these screws in. We're going to start tightening those down. And before we put any of the little spacers, the little screw covers back in, we're going to test everything just to make sure everything works and nothing got jiggled loose. And there she is. All done. Now I forgot to show you on the inside, right along this vent cover here, I didn't want the LEDs to shine real bright, and since we are missing the USB ports from the main board, I didn't want the LEDs to just kind of bleed right through there. So actually on top of the CD-ROM drive there was a heavy piece of frosted plastic. I'm guessing to protect somebody from the laser, just in case they took it apart. So I cut 2 strips of it and put that frosted plastic all along the front. You can see it here coming out those holes, but that way it'll diffuse the light from the inside. Alright, so here it is plugged in. We brought it into a dark room so we could shut the lights off here in a second and see what it looks like. So I'm going to shut the lights off. And as I face it up towards you, you can see how it's frosted behind the light, so there's no real super hot spots. And I think it came out pretty good. We tested out the charging cables and they work. And then other than that, it came with a little IR receiver, but we couldn't get the IR receiver to fit or to reach the remote wouldn't reach the IR receiver. So we actually downloaded the app that came with it, and the app can control the lights. And the app can control the lights of the LEDs inside. Brightness, color. If you want elite green, or we were going to keep it with like the PlayStation blue type color. And yeah, came out pretty good.
You're totally recording.
Alright, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you want to know any of the parts that we used, I'm going to put links to them in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that like button. It helps out the channel a lot. If you like this kind of content, be sure you hit that subscribe button. We put out new content all the time. And we thank you so much for watching. Until next time, peace out and geek out.